implemented. As Liddell Hart wisely said, inflict the least possible permanent injury, for the enemy of today is the ally of the future.
My Lords, there's very clear need throughout the Allied world for unity, and I deal therefore very quickly with the Irish Protocol. There is no way, I believe, that this country will accept abandoning a treaty by an act of law without first a serious attempt at arbitration. That is why we have the Vienna Conventions, and it is, in my view, inconceivable that this legislation should be presented to this House without a very serious attempt at achieving international arbitration. Now to the main issue, which is the Falklands. Sorry, not the Falklands. Perhaps in a way an interesting lapse. It's rather a nice thing in this country to come back to a situation where you can say that the British Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for Defence have acted throughout intelligently and with courage, and we should be grateful for that. This issue of Ukraine has not been at all easy. We can all praise the President of Ukraine. He has shown remarkable courage, intense skill, and I still believe his biggest moment is yet to come when he decides to open negotiations with the Russians for a peace settlement. A peace settlement will have to end this, but it will frankly not come from suggestions in this House or anywhere else, and nor should it. It should come from that country that was very nearly, on the second invasion, eradicated. They have the right to be supported by us, and we have quite correctly supported them within the limitations of NATO being a defensive alliance. We have not crossed that border, and we should not cross it. As for this loose talk about nuclear weapons and tactical nuclear weapons, of course, that hangs and lurks as an ever-present danger. But that issue is primarily between two people, the President of the United States and the President of the Russian Federation. If President Putin feels that he wants to cross that threshold, he will endanger his whole country. But it is not an issue for NATO. It is not an issue, frankly, which is much helped by being discussed in this House either. What we have to do now, as has been made clear by a number of people, is to strengthen our contribution. That means strengthening our contribution in weaponry, as we are entitled to do as a defensive organization. It means strengthening our economic sanctions, which are all the time being reduced. The good things that have come out of this dreadful war are few and far between. But one fact is that we have seen the strength of NATO and the wisdom of Truman of insisting that the boys couldn't come home in 1945 when he promised them, but in 1946 they were to stay. We've heard a lot of trash and nonsense talked about European Union defense. A defense organization has to have an inbuilt authority. It has to have a command structure. We have in NATO a proven command structure. We have the capacity to use the strength of the greatest military power still in the world, the United States, and to do so with discussion, democratic debate, and finally, military decision-making. I hope that President Macron has learnt that it is not brain dead and that France stops trying to eradicate or even undermine NATO. It is the fundamental issue, and we've seen it in this example. For the future, it is extremely important that the Russian people believe that we are not antagonistic to them, that we do not want to humiliate them. They have a lot of economic problems. They have deep-seated military problems. Some of us, and I included, thought their defence capacities and their armed forces were a lot stronger than they've proven to be. We must achieve a negotiated settlement that must come from Ukraine, but in the process of getting that settlement, we must understand the Russian people and not permanently alienate them. That is a hard task, but that is the task in front of us.
My Lords, it's a pleasure to follow the noble Lord, and he neatly summed up that we have ahead of us complexities and difficult decisions, not only for President Zelensky and the